betrayed. Broken, reborn. This is Novel Binge.
After I had been missing for 3 years, Xingzhou Energy came knocking again with a liability document in hand. They claimed that the new collapses in the Heishiling mining area should also be blamed on Shenyan. What they never crossed their mind was that the hoarse-voiced maintenance worker who opened the door was the very Shenyan they had been hunting. Nor did they ever realize that for 3 straight years, I had been living buried in mine dust, waiting only for them to reach out a second time. When Fang Jinyan knocked on the door, half of the motion sensor lights in the hallway were broken, flickered on and off, illuminating his face in alternating flashes of light and shadow. Behind him stood 2 men in black suits, one carrying a briefcase, the other a video camera, as if afraid that without witnesses might be lacking even a dead man could change his story. C.E. Shenyan. He slapped a document against the security door. Tell him, for this incident at the Heishiling mining area, the group needs him to cooperate in drafting a supplementary incident report. I stood inside the door, still holding a wrench in my hand. This old house, I had only returned to once half a month ago. The landlord said there was a leak and sent me to fix it. The door opened, and Fang Jinyan looked at me with a frown. Who are you? I lowered my voice and said, I'm here to fix the pipes. He glanced at my gray cloth work uniform, then looked around the room. The room was quite empty. An old table, a chair, the plaster was peeling off the walls, and near the window, faint traces of tape marks, where a mine map had been posted 3 years ago could still be seen. Fang Jinyan's gaze paused there. For a mom. NT, letting out a cold sneer. Shenyan sure knows how to hide. I said nothing. He pulled a second document from his briefcase. Black text on white, stark and clear. On its cover, it read, Supplementary Liability Confirmation for the Heishiling Mine. Collapse. Incident. Below, the reserved signature column reads, Shenyan. Fang Jinyan tapped the name with his finger. If you ever see him, help me pass along a message. Appear show up within 3 days and sign. End day. It doesn't matter if he shows up. He looked up at me, his tone as calm as if he were talking about the weather. Dad. The group can proceed with a presumption of death, or based on his old liability record from 3 years ago, concluding that he is responsible for the lingering behind the Thames hidden dangers this time. Better, if he is alive. Sada. Dead. And that doesn't change a thing. My grip on the wrench slowly tightened. The metal edges bit into my palm. Fang Jinyan saw this, and let out a laugh. What is the matter? Feeling indignant for him. Don't be silly. Shenyan caused the deaths of 27 miners, 3 years ago. Signed the liability document himself, and then ran off the compa. Ni left his name in place, which is more than generous for Sumo. Him. He placed his business card on the card on table. Tell him to stop hiding. The young master is very angry this time. After they left, only the sound of leather shoes echoed in the corridor remained. 1 stroke at a time, quickly swallowed by the sound of rain. I closed the door and turned to look at the old wall. 3 years ago, the night before the Qinglan mine disaster, I had been here all night drawing ventilation routes. The red lines were the main tunnels. The blue line is the return area. The area circled with a pencil is the most dangerous BL. As I assessed, the next day, 27 people never came out. I almost didn't make it out either. Only a few yellowed adhesive marks remained on the wall, like new skin growing after a burn. Even a touch would hurt. The phone buzzed once. A news notification popped up on the screen. Preliminary investigation of the collapse at Xingzhou Heishiling mine, possibly linked to system vulnerabilities left by Shenyan, the party responsible for the Qinglan mine disaster 3 years ago. The comments section below has exploded with comment. Shenyan again? It's him again. Wasn't it enough that he ruined Qingle, and now he's responsible for Heishiling too? How is someone like this still not caught? I heard he has been on the run for 3 years, should have been executed by now. I shut off the screen. A tickle crept up my throat. I braced myself against the corner of T8's table and coughed with a few coughs, then opened my palm to reveal a trace of dark red. The old injury flared up again. Outside, the rain grew heavier. The rain in Xingzhou always carried the smell of coal dust. I put Fang Jinyan's business card into my pocket. Picked up my tool bag, and went downstairs. The Heishiling mining area is over 40 kilometers from the city. The night shift isn't over yet. Rows of mining lamps, hung miners' lamps hung outside the duty room, the wind blowing from the shaft mouth blowing out with a dampness, carrying the dampness and odor of rust. My name is Zhang Bei now. Blackstone Ridge Peripheral Equipment. Intenance. Worker. No one knew this name was a pseudonym. No one knew that the Shenyan the miners cursed every day was right. Here in the repair shed replacing the fan bearings for them. In the maintenance shed, Chen Dayong was slamming the table and ending the table. The exhaust fan tripped again. This Cray-A system keeps tripping every few days. How the hell are we supposed to work? A young miner kept oath to mumble. Beside him. I heard this system was originally left by Shenyan et Ram Shenyan. No wonder. He has already ruined Qinglan like that. It is only a matter of time before Heishiling falls apart. Chen Dayong spat. That bastard better not let me run into him. No. My brother died in the Qinglan mine disaster. Day. If I ever find out where he is, I'll smash him with a pickaxe. The repair shed suddenly fell silent. Someone glanced at me. Dai Ti Dong. Master Jiang, what happened to your hand? I lowered my head. The old burn scar on the webbing of my left hand was scraped by a wren. Seeping a little blood. I put my glove back on. It is nothing. Dayan, give me the fan alarm records. Chen Dayong tossed the tablet over. Day, what are you looking at? The mine manager said. It is just sensor aging. We're tired. We've got to go down the shaft again tonight. With a production gap of 180 tons, whoever stops it foots the blame. I swiped open the records. 2217. First abnormal gas concentration detected in the return AI. R-way. 2229. Main ventilation negative pressure fluctuates. Then, the alarm was manually acknowledged manually. Confirmer account. LC negative. 07. I stared at that line of text. My fingers frozen mid-air. 3 years ago, 40 minutes before the Qinglan Mining District accident, there had been the exact same negative pressure fluctuation. It had also been manually confirmed. Similarly, no evacuation was ordered. Chen Dayong said impatiently. Why, Jiang Bei, do you even know how to fix it or not? I handed the tablet back to him. Days. The fan isn't broken. He was taken aback. What is that? The underground ventilation route. Block. If people won't survive if they go further down. Chen Dayong's face darkened. Say D, don't try to scare people. Day, the mine director says coal must come out tonight. What do you, a machine fixers know about what is underground? ND. I looked at him. I know dead people. At those words, no one in the room spoke. Chen Dayong cursed under his breath about bad luck and turned to the Lang and turned to leave. I sat back at the repair station and exported those segments of Allah, RM data, compressed and encrypted them, sent to an anonymous email. The recipient was only a string of code. XZH surveillance. After sending it, I powered off the computer off. Outside the door, miners' lamps kept lighting up one by one, like a row of eyes about to descend into the shaft. Early the next morning, Qingzhou Energy statement made headline. That is a beautifully worded statement. Recent equipment, Fluctua. Qians in the Heishiling mining area, recently Y be suspected to R. Elated to the safety system, defects left from the Qinglan project. 3 years ago, the group will continue to hold former safety dyer, CT Shen, the former safety chief, accountable. The public is welcome to provide any clues regarding Shen. The accompanying image is my ID photo from 3 years ago. Back then, I hadn't been burned yet. My face was clean, and my eyes were bright. Someone in the comments had turned my photo into black and white. Shenyan, the mine disaster fugitive. Say 27 lives, missing for 3 years. Pretending to be dead won't help. I stood outside the repair shed, cigarette in my mouth. The cigarette remained unlit. Ever since my vocal cords were damaged by smoke inhalation, I could no longer handle strong tobacco. I just held the cigarette of habit. Old Chin emerged from the duty room, glanced at on the screen, and his changed. He was 58 this year, with a slightly hunched back. After the Qinglan mine disaster, he was one of the last one to survive. Among the old miners. He was also the man who dragged me out of the AB, and out of the abandoned mine. He walked up, lowered his vase. They're at it again. I put my phone away. What about the performance? Old Chin's hand trembled slightly as he instinctively reached for tea. He old miner's lamp on his belt. He still always carries it, even after retirement. The lamp casing had light shell crack, held a crack, taped with black tape. Jiang Bei. He called out my fake name. Let's go. Stay away from Xingzhou. You can't fight them. I stared toward the mouth of the shaft. The wind, at Blackstone Ridge, feels wrong. Old Chin's lips moved slightly, silent. After a moment, he said, my son is still in the second team. I gave a grunt in acknowledgement. So, I can't leave. In the afternoon, Fang Jinyan arrived at Heishiling. He is not alone. Sheng Linchuan also came, young master of Xingzhou Energy, project manager of the Heishiling site. Outsiders call him the RGY Crown Prince. 3 years had passed, and he hadn't changed much. Hanged. The suit was clean, the pristine, The wristwatch was shiny, as the soles of his shoes trodden through the muddy water of the Min-ing area. Someone beside crouched down to whip them clean. The mine manager smiled obsequiously. Boss bowed and smiled. Mr. Sheng, President Sheng, the impact of the accident is already under control. And as for production, Sheng Linchuan raised a hand to stop him. The output cannot stop. The investigation can proceed slowly, but the contract for Heisheling this month must be signed. Fang Jinyan chimed in from the side. The public opinion has Al read. Why been directed at Shenyan Shen's way as long as we find someone to sign? GN, the supplementary materials. This matter can be suppressed. Sheng Linchuan let out a scornful laugh. If we can't find someone, come up a plan for that too far. He managed to sign 3 years ago, so he can sign a second time 3 years from now. I was repairing the electrical box not far away. The tool touched the iron sheet, producing a soft clink. Sheng Linchuan looked over. His eyes first landed on my face, then fell on the scar peeking out from the edge of my left glove. He furrowed his brow. Are you the new guy? The mine director. Quickly aide. Tabi, external maintenance. They call me Jiang Bei. Damaged throat. Not much of a talker, but a reliable man. Sheng Lishuan stepped closer. I kept my head, kept low down, refrained from looking at him. The scent of his perfume overpowered. The smell of coal dust, making my throat tight. Throat constrict throat. Look up. I slowly lifted my eyes. He stared at me for a few seconds. A hint of confusion flickered in Hi's eyes, but it soon dissipated. The last time we met 3 years ago, my face was covered in blood and coal dust, my throat burned by smoke, and the left side of my face scarred from fire. Later, old Chin found a small clinic to stitch me up. This face of mine, it is long ceased to longer the same as before. Sheng Linchuan looked away. Check his background. Fang Jinyan nodded. Understood. After they left, Chen Dayong leaned in and muttered under his breath. These office people, they talk about controlling accidents, but have they ever seen what it's like down the shaft? I closed the electrical box. Don't go down the no. He froze. Why? Gee, it'll collapse. Chen Dayong looked at me as if I were a madman. And what do you know? I didn't not going to explain. Some things, once spoken, no one would believe. Only when it all comes crashing down do people admit the wind was wrong. At 10 in the evening, the alarm went off in the number 3 return airway. The mine superintendent was cursing in the dispatch room. Who told you to stop? System, auto shutdown. Switch it to manual. When I pushed the door open, the screen was a sea of red lights. Chen Dayong and his second team had already changed into their GAR, ready to descend into the mine. He saw me and his face darkened. End, what are you doing here? I walked up to the console. End, the people can't go down. The mine manager slammed the table. Nay. Jiang Bei, who do you think you are? Who gave you the right to speak her? I pointed at the screen. The main exhaust, negative pressure, has DRS, opt below standard, and gas is backflowing in tunnel 3. Sending anyone down would be sending them to their death. The mine manager let out a cold laugh. Who are you trying to scare? With so many false alarms from the system, are you going to take responsibility for the production losses? I said nothing more. I bent down and pulled open the emergency cover beneath He Contro L cabinet. Inside, there was a row of old interfaces. These were the old maintenance ports left behind from the Qinglan mining area system from the same period, when Heisheling was renovated. They didn't dismantle them to save money. I inserted the old key disk I had with me. A permission verification screen popped up. A string of numbers automatically appeared in T8. account field, C-001. I stared at those numbers for a second, then pressed confirm. A piercing alarm rang through the dispatch. All conveyor belts at tunnel number 3 and the connecting corridors were all shut down. The underground entry gate was forcibly locked. Chen Dayong froze. What have you done? The mine director lunged at me and shoved me. Are you fucking insane? The next second, a muffled roar came from the shaft, like some giant beast turning turning deep underground. The entire dispatch building shook. The lights went out for 2 seconds. When they flickered back on, everyone's faces turned pale. A hoarse voice crackled from the walk. I.e. talkie. Partial collapse in the number 3 return airway. Good thing the men hadn't gone down. Team 2 is still on the surface. Chen Dayong stood rooted to the spot, his miner's lamp slipping from his hand, crashed to the ground. He looked at me, his lips trembling, his lips quivering. I pulled out the key disc and turned to leave. As I reached the doorway, he suddenly called out, Tate, Jiang Bei. I stopped. He asked, who exactly are you? My back was to him. Tate, the machine repairman. News of the forced shutdown reached Quickle. Why? The following day, began checking the workers' identities in Mini-NG area. All repair workers, temporary workers, and subcontractors will have their IDs verified, one by one. My file wouldn't hold up under scrutiny, because Jiangbei was originally the name of a distant relative of Old Qin's. He died in another place, unclaimed, 3 years ago. Old Qin gave me this name, just stay alive. He was squatting outside. He small clinic door back then, his hands covered in my blood. Taino, with the name Shenyan, they won't let go. Now, Fang Jinyan entered the maintenance shed with a stack of documents. Jiangbei, I was changing a filter. He tossed the documents in front of me. Tabi, the ID re-registration was 3 years ago. Social insurance has been cut off for 7 years, and no one people in your registered residence know you. Data. Care to explain? Everyone in the shed looked over. I wiped my hands. Back when I was working on construction sites, I didn't pay into social insurance. Fang Jinyan smiled. Working on a construction site lets you dig up and regain the old CES of a safety director. My hand paused for a moment. He leaned in, lowering his voice. I saw the dispatch system logs from last night. C-001, Shenyan's account. He stared into my eyes. NDK, what is your relationship with him? I didn't answer. The smile on Fang Jinyan's face slowly faded. Take him away. 2 security guards came up to restrain me. Old Qin rushed in through the door. Taidi, what are you doing? He is just a maintenance worker. Fang Jinyan kicked him in the knee. Old Qin fell, his forehead hitting the metal rack. Blood streamed down. My vision went dark. In that instant, I nearly twisted Fang Jinyan's hand. But there are surveillance cameras outside. There are security guards. There is the mine manager. If we act now, all the evidence will be twisted into a fugitive criminal violently resisting law enforcement. I slowly unclenched my fist. Fang Jinyan saw it and smiled. Not bad. ATS-SK. More sensible than Shenyan. He bent down to look at Old Qin. Qin Shushan, you disappeared for 3 months after the Qinglan Enin disaster. Samoan said, you once dragged a person out of the shop. Old Qin lifted his head, his face covered in blood. No. Fang Jinyan patted his face. Think carefully before you answer. Your son Qin Han is still in Team 2, isn't he? Old Qin's expression shifted instantly. Fang Jinyan straightened up. Before tonight, I want Jiangbei's true identity. And Shenyan's whereabouts. Otherwise, your son won't need to go down he mine tomorrow. He paused, then smiled again. He smiled. Fai, that is not right. Maybe I'll never go down the mine shaft again. That night, I went to my father's grave. The rain hasn't stopped. Behind the cemetery, the abandoned headframes of the Qinglan Mini-NG area could be seen. 3 years after the accident, the mine entrance was sealed. A monument stands outside. 27 miners' names are engraved on the monument. My name is not among them. Shen Guoliang's grave lies in the farthest corner. In front of the tombstone lay an old safety helmet. The helmet shell was worn to a faded white, with black scorched RKS from fire along its edges. That was the hat my father wore for over 20 years before he passed away. On the day of the Qinglan mine disaster, he was already off shift. I heard something went wrong on our ground, so I went down again. Followed the rescue team down. I rescued 3 people. The 4th time, I went down the mine. My lungs were damaged by the fumes. Later, the company said that I was the one responsible for the accident. His work injury paperwork was held up. The compensation never came through. He lay in the hospital bed, on oxygen, yet still gripping my hand. He said, Yanzi, don't give in. You're not wrong. But in the end, I still pressed my fingerprint on the statement of responsibility, because Sheng Huayuan stood outside the hospital room and told me, if you don't sign, your father won't even have this hospital room to stay in. I wiped the mud clean off the tombstone. By the 3rd wipe number 3, my fingers had gone numb. Footsteps sounded from beside me. Someone was holding up a phone. Live streaming. NDDSAD. My people, right here is the grave of Shenyan's father, the man responsible for the Qinglan mine disaster. I heard Shenyan's been missing for 3 years, and his father couldn't bear the infamy and died of illness. NDDSB. Would you say this counts as karma? I looked up. It is Luoji, a local self-media outlet from Xingzhou. Back then, he published many articles about the Qinglan mine disaster. The headlines were more brutal than the last cut than the next. 27 lives lost. Why did the safety director flee? The Shenyan family feeds on miners' blood. He didn't recognize me. When the camera panned to the safety helmet, he even clicked his tongue. This helmet sure knows how to play the PA-RT of a devoted love. I stood up. Luo Ji frowned. Who are you? Get out of the shot. I said, turn it off. He froze for a moment. What did you say? I stared at him. Turn off the live stream. Lu Ji was probably startled by my gaze, his hand trembling slightly. Why? But he quickly caught on. You're a relative of the Shen family. Shen? Say B. What? You done it, but can't stand to hear it. Day D. Shen Yan got so many people killed. His father raised a son like that, and his father deserves a few harsh words. Does he feel wronged? I didn't move. I just held the safety helmet in my arms. The rain dripped down the BRM. My knuckles were pale and blue. Luo Ji was about to say something. LSE when his phone suddenly rang. He glanced at it, his expression shifting slightly, then turned off the live stream and left. I looked down at my father's safety helmet. Tucked inside the chin strap was a small piece of black plastic. Very old. I always thought it was just a broken buckle. Until 3 months ago, old Chin told me, that helmet of your father's. Back then, the rescue team fitted all of them with a miniature recoil. They were all collected by the group after the accident. This one of your dad's since it was burned. Nobody wanted it. I put the helmet into my bag. In the distance, the wind howled through the abandoned Qinglan mine shaft. It sounded like someone was calling me from underground. It was 1 in the morning when Deputy Investigator J. Hung O. F. the General Administration of Safety Supervision received the second batch of anonymous materials. I never met him. I left the items in a locker in a 24-hour pharmacy in the old district. Inside, there is the complete ventilation curve for Heishiling. No, and the incomplete log entries from 4 minutes before the Qinglan mine disaster. Disfixed quite deliberately, the most critical 12 seconds we missing, because those 12 seconds aren't in the system. They're inside my father's hard hat. I sat in the noodle shop, across T8 E Street, watching through the glass as Si Jiaheng retrieved the documents. He was younger than I'd imagined, in his early 30s, wearing a black jacket after receiving the materials he didn't. Instead, he stood under the streetlight for a long time, flipping through them. His phone vibrated. A text message was sent from an unknown number. Who gave you those materials? I glanced at it, and replied with one low, okay, and replied with 2 words, coal dust. The other side was silent. A few minutes. Then, they asked again, do you know what the consequences are for fabricating evidence? I replied, do you know how many people will die if you don't investigate? This time, he didn't reply. The next day, the inspectorate sent person, Nell to station at Heishiling. Xingzhou Energy immediately became tense. Immediately, Sheng Lishuan held an internal meeting. I wasn't qualified to attend, but the old ventilation ducts in the maintenance shed connected to the back of the conference room. The sound was unclear, but it was enough. Fang Jinyan said. The ND was unclear, but it was enough. Fang Jinyan said. The anonymous materials point of the anonymous material points. A connection between the old and new accidents. If they dig up Qinglan, it'll be a huge risk. Sheng Linchuan, suppress. His anger. Qinglan has long been closed. The person responsible is Shenyan. Fang Jinyan hesitated. But the problem now is that someone has produced the original log. Then let's say it was forged by Shenya. Sheng Linchuan said coldly, dead or alive. Beidaidong. Shenyan must be the one held responsible. The conference room fell silent. After a moment, another elderly voice rang out. It was Sheng Huayuan. He didn't come to the mining area. He put the call on speakerphone. Linchuan, don't panic. We managed to suppress it back then, and we can do it again this time. First, let's find the person who handed over the materials first. Also, where is Shu Man? Upon hearing that name, my hand gripping the recorder paused slightly. Shu Man, former financial director of Xingzhou Energy. 3 years ago, she was in charge of disbursing compensation fund for the Qinglan mine disaster. 1 month after the accident, she resigned and left. Before leaving, she sent me a text message. Shenyan, I'm sorry, I don't dare. There was never contacted again. Afterwards, now they are looking for her as well, which means she still has something in her hands. I found Shu Man living in an old neighborhood. In the west of the city, there was a pair of women's slippers on the show rack by the door. She has lost a lot of weight. When he opened the door and saw me, his first reaction was to close it. I blocked with my hand. Shu Man, her face was deathly pale. You've mistaken me for someone else. Dean, where did the compensation for the compensation go? Her hand trembled slightly. I don't know. Back then, for the 27 families of Qingla, the group allocated 86 million from the corporate books. I looked at her. How much did the families actually receive? Shu Man's lips turned pale. Don't ask me. Shenyan is dead. I said. He is not dead. She jerked her head up. I said nothing more. The lights in the hallway were dim. She stared at my face for a long and then tears began to fall. You are. I interrupted her. Who I am doesn't matter. Shu man, you owe more than just Shenyan. It is 27 families. She stepped back 2 paces and leaned against the wall. Seidai, I have no way out. Seidai, Sheng Huayuan asked me to sign, and Fang Jinyan threatened me using my younger brother. Deidi, I'm only responsible, only for processing the funds only. I didn't take the money. I asked, what about the backup? She says nothing. I turn to leave. She suddenly calls out to me. Sudden. Lie. Wait. She pulled a bank card from the crevice of the sofa. A string of account numbers was written on the back of the card. Deidi, this is just one of the intermediary accounts. Deidi, I can't give you the complete one. I won't survive if I give it. I give it to you. Toyu, I took the card. You think not giving it to you is the only way to survive? Shu Man's face turned even paler. Just then, the sound of a car door came from downstairs. She rushed to the window for a look at the window and froze. Debbie AT, they're here. I slipped the bank card into my pocket. Fen Dede, go through the back door. She shook her head. Shaken. There is no time. The door was already knocking. 3 taps. Steady and unhurried. Fang Jinyan's voice came through from outside. Supervisor, Shu, Tabi, Chairman, Sheng wants to see you. Shu Man looked at me. Her eyes filled with fear. I slid open the kitchen window. Outside was an old security bars. I pried open the rusted screw. With a wrench. Get down. She shook her head, crying. I don't dare. I looked at her. 3 years ago, you didn't dare to try it. Then once. This sentence felt like a slap. Shu Man bit her lip and climbed onto the windowsill. I pushed her onto the air conditioning platform next door, then turned around and walked toward the door myself. Toward the door. The knocking stopped. Fang Jinyan, Yen said. Dede S80, Zhang Bei, Taide, I know you're in there. The door was kicked open. 3 people burst in. I swung the wrench and smashed it down on the FIRST person's wrist. A bone cracked sharply. The second man rushed at me. I sidestepped and slammed into the coffee table. Shattered glass. Fang Jinyan stood at the door. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a chilling darkness. Deidao A, you really are not an ordinary maintenance worker. I coughed twice. His throat was full of the taste of rust. Where is Sue Man? He asked. I smiled. Weren't you looking for me? Fang Jinyan's face darkened. Get him. The footsteps in the stairwell were chaotic. I knew I wouldn't get far yet. The old injury could giving out, but I don't need to run far. As I climbed over the back wall of the old residential compound, the sirens blared in perfect timing. Shi Jaehung had arrived with his men. I leaned against the dumpster, clutching my ribs as I gasped for breath. There was a new message on my phone. Who are you? Shi Jaehung. I replied. Someone who doesn't want anyone else to die and run away. Day. He replied quickly. Shu Man is safe. I got the materials. I closed my eyes. It wasn't over yet. That was just the tip of the iceberg. Of the compensation. The group would fight back. Sure. Early the next morning, Loji posted another video. This time, it wasn't to scolding Shenyan. Instead, a signature verification report was released. Dede, supplementary liability agreement for the Haishaling incident. Signature appears to be an exact match with the signature on the Chi Naglan liability agreement from 3 years ago. He said, in the video, a normal person could not have 2 signatures with identical brushstrokes, pauses, and ink angle. Day SO unless one of these 2 signatures is a copy. The comment section was in disarray for the first time. Nay, what do you mean? Xingzhou Energy forged the signature. Could it be that the one from 3 years ago is also problematic? Gaidi, was Shenyan actually set up to take the fall? Xingzhou Energy quickly issued a statement. They say Luoji took money from Shenyan. They claim Shen forged documents during his escape to maliciously retaliate against the corporation. During the interview, Fang Jinyan faced the camera with a pained expression. Taowei, Shenyan was once the group's safety director, with access to system permissions and old archives. And, if he fabricates evidence to escape conviction, the public can easily be misled. Dede 18. We hope he will come forward as soon as possible to accept the investigation. I sat in the maintenance head and finished watching that interview. Stood at the door, his expression complex. Zhang Bei, SE, is what they say online true? I asked, which part do you wish were true? He remained silent for a long time. My brother died in Qinglan. Boo. My mother still believes to this day that it was Shenyan turned off the alarm. If it weren't for him, he didn't finish. I turned off my phone. Day AT, then let her see the evidence. The temporary office of the inspecti on team was set up in the mining area guest house. Family members crowded the entrance every day. Someone was crying. Someone was cursing. Someone held up a photo of Shenyan with a red cross drawn across it. As I walked past the crowd, an old woman suddenly rushed out and threw a water bottle at me. Half of her body was drenched. Day DAT Dawson. None of you from the group are good. She cried and cursed. Tell Shenyan to come out. Deidi, give me back my son's life. I recognized her. Aunt Zhao, the mother of Qinglan. Miner Zhao Ping. 3 years ago, Zhao Ping was in the same shift as me. When the accident happened, he pushed the spare oxygen tank to me. I made it out. He didn't. Aunt Zhao didn't recognize me. She grabbed my collar. Her fingers dry and bony, like withered branches. Did you hide him? Did you hide him away? Shen Yan killed my son. Who does Shen Yan think he is to hide for 3 years? Why should I? I didn't push her away. Someone behind her shouted, "Des, Aunt Zhao, don't waste your words on them. Xingzhou energy says that you, unless Shen Yan comes forward, the compensation disbursement can't go through the proper procedures. It is all percentage signs, should be. It is all his fault." I looked down and saw the agreement in Aunt Ch's hand. The corner of the paper was soaked soft by the rain. The amount written on it was 380,000. I remember the company, KS, showed the group allocated 1.6 million to Zhao Ping's family. The missing money ended up in the account number Shu Man gave me. My throat tightened. Aunt Zhao was still crying. He was my only son. Before he went down the mine, he said that when he got his bonus, he'd buy me an apartment with an elevator. That beast, Shen Yan, I said, softly. He isn't. Aunt Zhao froze. What did you say? I looked up, watching her. Shen Yan is not the one who killed your son. The crowd fell silent for a moment. In the next second, the shouting grew even louder. Who are you? Nda, speaking up, or a fugitive? How much did Shen Yan pay you? Someone shoved me. I stepped back half a pace, bumping into the step. The old wound pulled, a dull ache tightening in my chest. Just then, Shi Jiaheng came out of the guest house emerged. He cast a glance at me. That gaze was profound, as if he had already guessed something, but he didn't expose it. He said to the family members, "Des, the hearing is at 9 o'clock, the day after tomorrow. Say Day D, the Qinglan old case and the Heishiling new case will both be addressed. Please be present at the scene." Aunt Zhao clutched the agreement tightly. "I only want the truth," Shi Jiheng said. "There will be." On the eve of the hearing, old Qin went missing. His son Qin Hai called me, his voice trembling. "And, Master Jiang, my dad is gone. The miner's lamp is missing too." When I rushed to old Qin's house, the door lock had been forced open. The room was in complete disarray. There was blood on the table. The old photo on the wall fell to the floor. In the photo, a group of miners from the Qinglan mining area stood at the pithead of the mine entrance, their faces smudged with coal dust but beaming, with wide smiles. I'm at the edge. Back then, I was still called myself Shen Yan. Old Qin stood next to me, his hand on my shoulder. There was a sentence written on the back of the photo, "Safe return to the surface." I placed the photo back on the table. My phone rang, an unfamiliar number. When the call connected, Fang Jinyan's voice came through. "Jiang Bei, Estine, or should I call you be called by another name?" I said nothing. He laughed. "Wei, old Qin is getting on in years. His bones can't take a beat. Ngji, we're very interested in his miner's lamp. Day T, and that hard hat in front of Shen Guoliang's grave." I looked at the backpack. The safety helmet was still there. There, Fang Jinyan continued. 12 o'clock tonight, at the waste warehouse. Come alone. Don't call the police. Taidi, otherwise, old Qin might never speak again. The call ended. I stood there for a long time. Then I opened my backpack was unzipped. A hard hat, backup batteries for the miner's lamp, the account documents Shu Man gave me, and the ventilation logs from 3 years ago. I placed them one by one, putting them away properly. Finally, I took out a voice recorder. I pressed play. Inside was old Qin's voice from 3 years ago. He spoke choked with tears. Shen Yan didn't run away. Stadsa Daotong. He is rescuing people, underground rescuing people. Kdatadasat. He told us to retreat to the Bayun Soundop, while he went back to find your dad. NTISD, but the ventilation has stopped. The warning was also turned off by someone. We shouted for a long time, but no one answered. I turned off the recording. He shoved the fragments of the miner's MP into his lamp into his pocket. Outside, the rain had stopped. Xingzhou was unusually quiet, like the second before a thunderclap. The waste storage shed was on the west side of the mining area. The place was piled with discarded steel cables, used ventilation ducts, and scrapped supports. The air was filled with the smell of rust and damp coal. When I arrived, old Qin was tied to a chair, a gash on the forehead, blood at the corner of the mouth too. Fang Jinyan stood nearby, holding that old mining lamp dangling from his hand. Sheng Lishan sat on a pile of scrap, lowering his head to wipe his hat. NDS. When he saw me, he smiled. Jiang Bei, you're really hard to track Dao. He lifted his eyes. I should have recognized you sooner. I didn't look at him, only looked at old Qin. Let the man is let go. Fang Jinyan raised the miner's lamp. First, tell me what is inside here. Old Qin was frantic. Jiang Bei, don't worry about me, go. Fang Jinyan backhanded him across the face. I took a step forward. The man behind Sheng Lishuan immediately raised his steel rod. Sheng Lishuan stared at me. That scar on your left hand. I've been thinking about it for a long time. On the night of Qinglan, when Shen Yan was dragged out of the mine, his left hand was burned T8. Worst. He stood up. What a coincidence, don't you think? I didn't pretend any longer. I slowly pulled off my gloves. The burned skin was exposed under the light. Shrivel, shrunken, hideous. Fang Jinyan's face changed color. Sheng Lishuan only laughed even more joyfully. Say, so you're really alive? Shen Yan. Old Qin closed his eyes, tears rolling down from the creases of his weathered face. Yanzi. I looked at Sheng Lishuan. 3 years had been 3 years. That name still slipped so easily from his lips, like crushing a piece of coal cinder underfoot. He walked up to me over to the front. If you kept hiding, I really wouldn't have been able to do anything about you. But you just had to come back. Also hand over the materials to the In's Pekshan team. Shenyan, have you forgotten how you signed Thrar? Years ago, you signed those documents. No, I said. Sheng Linchuan smiled back, dead, slightly. I continued. Your father stood outside my dad's hospital room. You stand before me. Day 80. Fang Jinyan held the liability agreement in hand. You told me that as long as I signed, the family's compensations would be paid in full, the injured would be treated, and my father would receive treatment. Fang Jinyan immediately interrupted. Nonsense. I looked at him. Sai da di dai tingguan. Why are you in such a hurry? His face His face turned sour. Sheng Linchuan took a step forward. Sheichen Yn. Do you really think anyone will believe what you're saying now? Day Isa. You are the one. You signed it. Day. Now, that something else has happened. At Haishaling, you jump out again to hand over forged materials. Who do you think the public will believe? Who do you think the public will believe? I coughed. My chest ached fiercely, but I still smiled. I figured they'd believe the evidence. Sheng Lishuan's eyes darkened. Just then, the sound of a screeching beat. Rakes came from outside the entrance of the scrap bin. The light swept in. Shi Jihung and his men burst in. Nobody move. Fang Jinyan's face changed drastically. Sheng Linchuan stared at me. You called the police. I shook my head. I didn't call the police. I lifted the shattered remains of the miner's lamp inside my pocket. And I way. That was old Qin's lamp. It had a tracker. Day Ace. Took it yourselves. You did. When old Qin was loaded onto the ambulance, he was still clutching my hand. Yanzi, don't be afraid. My throat is extremely hoarse. I'm not afraid. He shook his head. Tay, you're scared. You're afraid those family members will see you. Sad. They're afraid you still hate them. Afraid that your father died in Ain. Afraid what you've got won't be useful. I said nothing. Old Qin caught his breath. But you have to step forward. Day S. Shen Yan's name can't stay buried under the mine forever. Shi Jihang stood not far away. He finally spoke. Ndabi. So, the anonymous material was from you. I looked at him. Yes. Jiang Bei is you? Yes. Shen Yan is also you. The wind blew in from the Machu. The H of the mine shaft. It was bitterly cold. I heard myself say, yes. Shi Jihang was silent for a few seconds. At the hearing tomorrow, do you dare you come? I looked at the distant, pitch-black headframe in the pitch darkness. 3 years ago, when I crawled out of there, half buried with my face against the water, my ears filled with nothing but alarms and cries. I thought I would never return to the light Ain. But a person can't spend their entire life hiding in mining dust. By DCR. Ape of coal. I said, no time for a break. I've waited years. 3. Day. It is not about being absent tomorrow. Many people came on the day of hearing. The inspection team, the police, the media, the miners' families, and the Xingzhou Energy executives. Sheng Huayuan also arrived. This is his first public appearance. Since the Aishaling incident, he sat in the front row, his hair neatly combed, with the walking stick resting by his knee, like an old man nursing a grievance. Sheng Linchuan sat down beside him. When he saw me walk in, the corner of his mouth twitched. Luji's livestream camera aimed RGAT at me. The barrage comments were scrolling like crazy. He is Shen Yan. Aren't they supposed to be dead? Day. How did their face end up looking like that? Day. A fugitive still dares to show up. Aunt Zhao also arrived. She sat in the family section, clutching the 38,000 compensation agreement in her hands. When she saw me, her eyes instantly reddened. It wasn't out of heartache, it was hatred. Shi Jiahang tapped the table. The hearing begins. Fang Jingyan was the first to stand. Di, ladies and gentlemen, I am here on behalf of Xingzhou Energy to present the facts regarding this incident. Shen Yan, former group safety director, signed the liability confirmation for the Qinglan mine disaster 3 years ago, and subsequently missing. Some of the systemic problems now emerging from the Shiling mine accident found in his tenure in recent providing so-called with motives, likely for retribute. He delivered his words steadily. Every sentence sounded like had been rehearsed in advance. After speaking, he turned to look at me. Chen turned to look at me. Say, Shen Yan, do you admit that the signature on the liability form 3 years ago was your own? The entire venue fell silent. I stared at the microphone on the table. Admit, confess. The family seating area erupted. Aunt Zhao shot to her feet. You admitted it. You killed my son, and you still dare to come. Shi Jiahang ordered people to maintain order. Fang Jingyan showed a faint smile. Since you admit it, the matter is clear enough. I looked up at him. Nat. I admit I signed it. Wait, but I never admitted that it was the truth. Fang Jingyan's expression stiffened. I take out produce the first document. This is the production hall. Warning report, which I submitted to the group 48 hours before Qinglan Ning disaster 3 ago. The screen lit up, screen flickered. The document file number, the time submission, recipient, the signatory, Sheng Lishuan, sneered Ko. LD Li. Having many early warning reports doesn't mean the accident is destined to happen. I nodded. So there's also this. A second image appeared. Qinglan mining area ventilation system. Akin. Logs. 40 minutes before the accident. The gas concentration levels rose. Main exhaust. Negative pressure. Became abnormal, and the system automatically recommended evacuation. But the warning was manually overridden. Closing account. LC -07. Muffled murmurs of discussion rippled through off the hearing room. Shi Jiahang asked, whose account is LC -07? I looked at Sheng Lishuan's project access, account F, or the project. Sheng Lishuan immediately said, "IDN. An account doesn't mean the user themselves are the ones operating it. Shen Yan, you were the safety director back then. You also had end access." I replied, "That is right." So I brought a third copy. Screen switched. Be changed. Alarm data before the Heishiling no. The exact same negative pressure fluctuations, the same manual confirmation, the same account system. I spoke up. 3 years ago, Qinglan. 3 years later, Heishiling. 2 mining areas, different equipment, different work shifts. But the exact same pattern of violations. Forced production, increase, alarms turned off, evacuation orders, suppressed evacuation RDers. Chen Dayong sat among the miners, his face pale. The miners around him lowered their heads, because they all knew it was true. Fang Jingyan quickly steadied him. Chain, this only proves that someone manipulated the system. Not that the group manipulated the system. Falsified liability. Shen Yan, you've been on the run for 3 years. That is plenty of time to fabricate these half-baked things. I looked at him. Don't be in a hurry. I took out the 4th document. And, 1T, this is the supplementary liability document for the Heishiling accident. Fang Jingyan's eyelids twitched. 2 signatures appeared on the screen. On the left was the Qinglan responsibility document from 3 years ago. On the right was the supplementary responsibility statement for Heishiling. The 2 signatures of Shen Yan overlap almost perfectly. I said, no time for a break. No normal person, writing 3 years apart, could have identical turns, pauses, and pressure marks that are identical, down to the millimeter. The forensic results are here. The new signature was copied from a scanned copy of the previous liability statement. The hearing hall erupted in uproar. Luoji zoomed in the camera. The barrage comments flew fast it was impossible to read. Fang Jingyan's face changed color. This document hasn't been officially submitted by the group. It is an internal draft. I asked, who drafted it? He didn't say a word. I answered for him. Legal department. Your subordinate. The document used is a scanned copy of the liability agreement from 3 years ago. And the original of that 3-year-old liability form has always been kept by you. Fang Jingyan's forehead was beating with sweat. Sheng Huayuan finally lifted his eyes. Shen Yan. His voice was not loud, but it silenced the entire hall. 3 years ago personally, you signed it yourself. Now, you're making an issue out of the signature. Young man, you shouldn't be too ungrateful. I looked at him. 3 years ago, outside the hospital room, he had used the same tone. Gentle, steady, like a mountain. Pressing down, Dane, Chairman, Sheng. I said, Sadie, you talk about conscience, then let's talk about the compensation. When Shu Man walked in from the side door, many people didn't immediately react. She was wearing a gray jacket, her face very pale. She was carrying a folder in her arms. Fang Jinyan, instinctively, Ood up instinctively. Shu Man, think carefully. Shu Man gave him a look at him. In that look, fear still there was still ear. But she did not a step back. In retreat, she handed the documents to Shi Jieheng. Te Da Dao At. This is the payment record for the Qinglan Mine Dissa. Stir compensation. The group's ledger shows an allocated funds of 21.3 million yuan have actually gone to the family accounts, the remaining 70,000, 40,000, and the remaining money through 3 intermediary accounts flowed to Sheng currency. Towards the Sheng groups are elated Compan, Eyes, and a number of Fisum silencing accounts. Said Aunt Zhao snatched her head up. The agreement in her hands was TRA, embling fiercely. Shi Jieheng had one of them displayed on the screen. Zhao Ping's home account payment 1.6 million. Actual amount received 380,000. Aunt Zhao was stunned. She stared at the screen, as if unable to comprehend the words. After a long while, she turned her head to look at me. His lips moved, but no sound came out. I looked away. I didn't dare look at her. Sheng Huayuan's face finally turned cold. Can the words of a resigned accountant really be considered a vide? NCE, Shu Man said. It has been signed officially signed off. She took out the last page. Above are the electronic approval record, DS of Sheng Huayuan, and also Fang Jinyan, Fang's legal confirmatio. The hearing hall fell into complete chaos. Fang Jinyan stood still, his ground, his face ashen. He suddenly spoke up. All of this was done on Sheng Linchuan. Sheng or dared me to do. Linchuan Sheng. Linchuan whipped his head around. Shach. Day N. Our ply turned around. Fang Jinyan looked like a cornered dog. The Qinglan liability statement was prepared on your orders. The supplementary materials, supplementing Yi Shilling, were ALS. Done with old signatures, as you instructed. President Sheng, I'm just a legal consultant. I act on the group's directives. Sheng Lishuan rushed over to grab Hai but was stopped by the collar, but was stopped by the staff. Sheng Huayuan tapped his cane on the ground. Enough. He turned to look at Shi Jieheng. This hearing today has already turned into a public opinion trial against Xingzhou Energy. Tebei Sadie, I will cooperate with the formal investigation, but I cannot accept baseless accusations. He stood up. Fei, my son did not order the shutdown of the early warning system. I haven't approved any illegal blasting either. The Qinglan mine disaster was due to Shenyan Shen's negligence in Afati management. That is the conclusion. He looked at me again. Kdad, Shenyan, you've been wrong. We can talk about compensation. Say Dao A18, but don't drag innocent people into this. I suddenly smiled. My throat ached. The laughter was very hoarse. Sheng Huayuan frowned. I took out my father's helmet from the bag. The helmet shell was so old, it barely held its shape. The black scar remained black mark. Aunt Zhao saw the moment. She saw that hat. Tears streamed down her. Tears. The miners of Qinglan all recognized Tears Shen Guoliang. That old miner ran down the shaft, made 4 trips 4 times on the day of the accident. I placed the placed hard hat on table. Fian. This hat, my father wore for 23 years. IDAs. On the day of the Qinglan mine disaster, he went down the shaft wearing it to save people. The group later confiscated all the rescue wreck orders. Only this one only. You left it because you thought it was too badly burned. Sheng Linchuan's face suddenly changed, very subtly. But I saw it. I took out the repaired memory card. Fighting, the system log is missing 12 seconds. You said calmly. You claim those 12 seconds prove nothing. Here it is now. Shi Jiheng took the one storage card and inserted it into the dev. Iteng CE. The screen darkened for a moment. Then a shaky footage appeared. The miner's lamplight was chaotic. The wind, the alarm, and the cries all mingled together. The scene showed the entrance of the Qingle and mind the collision. Wa ba de shengyin, siya. The warning went off. Why haven't they evacuated yet? Then, a young Sheng Lishuan appeared. At the edge of the frame, he wore a white shirt, his face dark and grimace. He said to a technical supervisor, Deidi, turn it off. The technical supervisor trembled. Mr. Sheng, the gas concentration has already exceeded the limit. If we blast again, there will be an accident. Sheng Linchuan slapped him across the face. Day, I told you to turn it off. Day Dingfen. No coal today, you'll pay for the breach of contract. The frame shook violently. Someone shouted, NDS Sabin. Director, Shen ordered evacuation. Sheng Linchuan sneered. "ND, what is Shenyan to me? I am the project manager. Turn off the warning and continue the blasting." The technical supervisor was still hesitating. Sheng Linchuan made a phone call. Sheng Huayuan's voice came through. "GH the speakerphone. Linyuan, Dad Shenyan wants to suspend product. On. How much would it cost to stop?" "At least 30 million. After a brief silence, measured pause, Sheng Huayuan finally spoke. "Dao, stick to the original plan. If something goes wrong, let the safety department take the blame." 12 seconds. Only 12 seconds. Yet they were like 12 nails, nailing down every sound. In the hearing hall, the final frame showed my father rushing toward the wellhead. He shouted, "ND, evacuate everyone. Evacuate everyone now." The following explosion consumed everything. The screen went black. For a long time, no one spoke. Aunt Zhao covered her mouth, her entire body trembling. Chen Dayong lowered his head, tears splashing onto the back of his and Luoji's live streaming room fell into an eerie silence. Even the barrage comments paused for a moment. Sheng Lishuan's face turned deathly pale. "Impossible." He stared at the screen. "This is done. That is impossible. This thing has long since been." He stopped mid-sentence, abruptly. Shi Jihang looked at him. "Long since what?" Sheng Linchuan's lips trembled. Fang Jinyan suddenly let out a laugh. His laughter was uglier than tears. Crying. "Day, President Sheng, you're finished." Sheng Huayuan sat in the chair, his fingers gripping the walking cane so tightly. They RN White. He tried to stand up, but the police had already LK'd up to him. Sheng Huayuan, Sheng Linchuan, Day, you suspected of major liability accidents, falsifying evidence, obstructing investigations, and misappropriating compensation funds. NADST and please cooperate with the investigation. When Sheng Lichuan was held down, he was still looking at me. There was finally no contempt in that gaze. Only hatred and fear remained. "Shenyan, you've had this thing all along. NG, why didn't you take it out sooner?" I look at him. "Day, because 3 years ago, I couldn't produce it." One day, my dad was in the hospital bed. Old Chin was under your watch. Is. The compensation for the families are stuck with you. All the media is criticizing me. For every word I say, you have 100 ready to counter. I paused for a moment. There is also more. I almost died. Sheng Lishuan was still struggling. As he was being dragged off, Sheng Huayuan, however, was calm. As he passed by me, he whispered, "You win." I looked at him. "No. And 27 people died. My dad died too. I didn't win." His face finally turned ashen. After the hearing, Aunt Zhao was waiting for me at the door. The rain started falling. She's still clutching that old agreement in her hand. The paper wrinkled and battered. She looked at me, her mouth opening as if to speak. "Shen, just one word." And she began to cry. "I'm sorry." She bent over. I reached out and steadied her. Her shoulders were as thin as a bag of bones. "I cursed you for 3 years. I can still splash water on you." I don't know. I really don't know. I said, "Zhao Ping once saved my life." She looked up. I stared at the curtain of rain. When the he pushed his own tank to me. He said, "You still have drawings to finish." Aunt Zhao cried so hard, unable to the point she couldn't stand. I helped her sit down on the steps. After a long time passed, she asked, "Was he in pain at the end?" I was silent for a moment. He kept calling for you." Aunt Zhao covered her face, her sobs muffled and low. Chen Dayong walked over and stood in front of me. This man, who just a few days ago had threatened to bash my head a pickaxe. His eyes were now frighteningly bloodshot. General Manager Shen. His voice was hoarse. "My brother." I said, "Your brother was a good miner." He nodded vigorously. Then he took a step back and bowed to me. I didn't dodge, nor did he say he forgave. They hated the wrong people, but their sons, brothers and husbands are truly dead. The cruelest place is at its most brutal right here. The truth can come back. People won't come back. Xingzhou Energy suspended for investigation. Heishiling has to go see for himself. The Old Qinglan case, has been reopened. The news stayed on the headlines for 7 days. The name Shenyan transformed from mine disaster fugitive to Seoul. Forewarner, someone dug up a photo I took 3 years ago, along with a screenshot of my father's helmet. Someone said they owe me an apology. Some say they hope I return to Gog Energy to take charge of the safety system. Some people even said the group was willing to offer me a vice president role to compensate me for these 3 years. When these words reached my ears, I was standing before the Qinglan mining area monument. The names on the stele had been repainted in Zhao Ping, Li Shusheng, Zhou Yongli, Qin, Angguo, 27 names. My father, Shen Guoliang's name was also engraved right next to it. Not a list of the accident casualty list. It was a list of rescue pers. Onel involved in the rescue. I placed that old hard hat in front of T. He gravestone. There is coal dust on the helmet that I can't wipe off T. He on my wipe. Shi Jaeheng stood behind me. Higher-ups, want to ask you you're willing to join the accident investigation expert database. SE, not the group, it is the monitoring system. I looked at the safety helmet. I want to head to the north side first. There are a few small mines over there, and the ventilation systems are so old, they're practically falling apart. Shi Jaeheng smiled. NDD, wait, Tado, is this your agreement? I said nothing. In the distance, the abandoned headframe stood in the rain, like an old bone. Lu Ji also came. He didn't go live. He simply placed a bunch of white cheese, chrysanthemums, Shenyan, Baye. I'll revise every single one of those drafts. From back then, one by one. I'm sorry. I cast a glance at him, a single glance. CE, don't write about me. He froze. I said, write about them. Day end. Write about the people still going down into Heisheling. Beijing. Write about the families whose settlement agreements don't add up. And write about why every alarm gets turned off. Luo Ji nodded. Day. Sure. I turned around and walked out. An old pickup truck, old pie cup truck, was parked outside the cemetery. Old Chin sat in the passenger seat, a blanket covering his legs. His recovery wasn't particularly fast, but his spirits had improved. A lot. Seeing me come out, he asked, did you take off the hat? I let out an M. Old Chin looked toward the Qinglan mining R.A., his eyes reddening once more. If your father knew, he'd be happy. I opened the car door. The wind blew from the mining area, carrying the damp, cold smell of coal dust. I used to think I would be wrapped in this smell for the rest of my life. Trapped in that night at Qinglan. Trapped in the signatures on the I ability documents. Trapped in every word of blame thrown at me. But as the car drove out of Xingzhou, I looked back. The city was shrouded by rain and fog. The menor lamps, head frames, the hearing hall, and those long overdue apologies all faded slow. Why away? My reputation was restored, but father will never return. Zhao Ping and his men won't come back either. I slipped my hand into my pocket and touched that old fragment of The miner's lamp. The edges were rough and jagged, pressed painfully into my palm with a faint sting. Old Chin asked me, where to next? I looked at the highway ahead, to the coal mines. To the coal mines, to a place where it is still not yet too late to go. The wipers swept across the windshield a rhythmic scrape. The road ahead was shrouded in a gray haze. But this time, I did not look back.